Well, good morning. Today I wanted to talk about uh, some of the more difficult bus and train routes to travel on, and the reason they're difficult is because they only work, as it were, once a week. In reality, some of them actually run only once a week, and I would outline ways of doing, for example, say two or three of those in 1 week. It is possible, for example. Now, in New South Wales, the routes that I'm thinking about run from Narrabri to Burren Junction once a week, Fridays only. An interesting service because the bus goes out to Burren Junction basically empty. Then it brings people back into Narrabri, where it connects with a train to Sydney, if you wish, of course. Or you can spend most of the day there. Typically, many people from Burren Junction would go in and do their shopping or go to medical or other appointments, and then the bus goes back in the evening and then returns to Narrabri again, basically empty, because hardly anybody would want to go from Burren Junction to Narrabri on that service. There is another service that goes out from Lithgow to Barradine once a week. Now, that's on a Thursday, and it returns from Barradine on Fridays. Now, on other days of the week, it does operate through Mudgee, like a daily service through there, and there's Coonabarra brand, for example, and Binnaway, and they service far more frequently than once a week. But it is a second once a week service. Now, the third one is Sydney to Griffith, which runs Saturdays only and comes back Sundays. And on the Monday, it does a once a week service. It goes from Sydney to Broken Hill and then comes back on Tuesdays. A person could do Griffith and then Broken Hill and come back to Sydney, then go out and do Barradine and back in, as I say, the same week. There are, of course, other services around, but they're little known, and they do exist, but they're very difficult to come up with, so to speak, and those who see this might like to add some other rare or weekly services to my list of those. Now, there are a number of other trips that only work once a week. I'll give you two of those. One can fly, for example, to Darwin, typically perhaps on a Monday, have a couple of nights in Darwin, and on Wednesdays only, the GAN would leave Darwin 10 o'clock in the morning. You get to Alice Springs. It's about a 24-hour trip. Gets there Thursday. So on Fridays, there's a bus that goes from Alice Springs to Mount Isa. And on Saturday, you can go Mount Isa to Longreach, and then you spend a couple of nights in Longreach, and on Monday you leave Longreach on the Spirit of the Outback train. You get to Brisbane on Tuesday. So that whole idea only works once a week, basically. It's not very good now. I was going to do it, but it now gets to Mount Isa at 12:30 in the morning instead of 10:30 at night, which makes it very difficult unless a person is prepared to sit around the depot in the waiting room and wait for the service to go out Saturday morning at 6:55. It's rather a long wait, but it is possible, so you might like to consider it. Or if you didn't want to spend 2 nights in Longreach, you could spend just one night in Mount Isa and then one night in Longreach the following day, or stay overnight in Winton, and the railway bus goes down to Longreach on Mondays. A second one that works really only, as far as I'm aware, only works once a week, is a person might travel from Melbourne to Bairnsdale on the train, and then there's the Capital Link, but that runs daily. But you think, well, it runs daily, but it can go round to Bombala on Thursday, and on Fridays you can go Bombala, Canberra, and then to Goulburn, and on Saturdays Goulburn to Griffith. I'm proposing to do that in October, and then there's a bus service that runs daily, but on Sundays it runs at a sensible time, 10 a.m. from Griffith, goes down to Shepparton, and then there's a train to Melbourne. So that just gives you an idea of some of the more interesting or difficult perhaps services to go on, and in any case most of them would be worthwhile doing. I would offer a little bit of caution over a couple of these services. The Griffith, I would say, be lucky if it survives for very long, because there's a parallel road network and there's buses 7 days a week running over those roads, so it's lucky that it's there. And another service to draw your attention to that I see as being in danger is the Armidale. But I consider that they're probably trying to Sydney to Tamworth and back in a day, which was done many years ago, incidentally, with an XPT. So I consider that they will probably put a bus on that Armidale, not of course urging it, but there you go. Anyway, I just thought I'd hand out some ideas and for people to consider, and there are numerous other things that are well worthwhile considering, that you don't normally travel on, that they're a little bit different. Like one further example would be those people among you who are using or able to use the $2.50 seniors card tickets in New South Wales. One can travel from Sydney to Bathurst on the first day, and then Bathurst to Lightning Ridge the next day, being a Thursday. So it'd be Wednesday, Thursday, and on Fridays there's a bus that goes from Lightning Ridge to Toowoomba, and then of course you get connections to Brisbane. So I just thought I'd offer up some of those more interesting travel options, and I hope they've been of use to you, and thank you for viewing.